A security guard gets fired for protecting Elvis Presley. And what he does changes everything. The neon lights of Las Vegas blazed against the desert sky on the evening of August 12, 1972. As the International Hotel prepared for another sold-out Elvis Presley performance, inside the hotel's security office, veteran guard Marcus Williams checked his watch and straightened his uniform one final time before beginning his shift. At 45 years old, Marcus had been working security for nearly 2 decades, but the past 3 years guarding Elvis's performances had been the most meaningful of his career. Unlike many of his colleagues who saw the assignment as just another job, Marcus genuinely cared about the King's safety and had developed a deep respect for the man behind the legend. Marcus had grown up in poverty in North Las Vegas, the son of a single mother who worked 3 jobs to keep their family afloat. He understood struggle, perseverance, and the importance of treating everyone with dignity, regardless of their background. These values had drawn him to Elvis, who despite his fame and fortune, always took time to acknowledge the security staff, remember their names, and ask about their families. In a world where celebrities often treated support staff as invisible, Elvis's kindness had made a lasting impression on Marcus, who had quietly appointed himself as the singer's most dedicated protector. Tonight felt different from the usual pre-show routine. Marcus had noticed increased tension among the hotel management, hushed conversations that stopped when he approached, and several unfamiliar faces in expensive suits who claimed to be business associates, but whose presence made Marcus's instincts scream danger. His 20 years of security experience had taught him to trust those instincts, and something about this particular evening was setting off every alarm bell in his head. As he made his rounds through the hotel, checking exits and monitoring the growing crowd of fans, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that tonight would test everything he believed about loyalty, duty, and doing what was right. If this incredible story of loyalty and sacrifice is capturing your attention, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel and give this video a thumbs up. Your support helps us continue sharing these amazing true stories that show the best of human nature. Thank you for being part of our community. The trouble began 3 hours before showtime, when Marcus received an unusual directive from his supervisor, Tony Castellano, a man whose loyalty clearly lay with the hotel's more questionable business connections rather than with guests' safety. Castellano pulled Marcus aside in the corridor leading to Elvis's dressing room, his voice low and urgent. "Williams, I need you to take a break from your usual post tonight. We're bringing in some special security for the show. Guys who know how to handle VIP situations with more discretion." Marcus's jaw tightened. In all his years working Elvis's shows, there had never been a need for special security. The regular team knew the routine perfectly. Had built relationships with Elvis and his entourage and had successfully managed hundreds of performances without incident. "Mr. Castellano, with respect, I know this venue better than anyone. Mr. Presley is comfortable with our team. Why the sudden change?" Castellano's eyes hardened, and Marcus caught a glimpse of something that looked suspiciously like fear beneath the man's authoritative facade. "Look, Williams, this comes from the top. There are some important people coming to tonight's show, and they want their own security arrangements. Your job tonight is to patrol the parking garage and stay away from the performance area. That's an order." Every instinct Marcus had developed over 2 decades in security told him this was wrong. He had seen enough of the darker side of Las Vegas to recognize when legitimate business crossed into dangerous territory. And the important people Castellano referenced had all the hallmarks of individuals whose interests might not align with Elvis's safety. But Marcus also knew that directly defying orders would cost him his job. A job he desperately needed to support his wife, Maria, and their teenage daughter, Sophia, who was just 2 years away from starting college. As Marcus reluctantly made his way toward the parking garage, he spotted one of the special security men Castellano had mentioned. The man was clearly not hotel security. His suit was too expensive, his movements too predatory, and the bulge under his jacket suggested he was carrying more than the standard security equipment. When Marcus discreetly observed the man checking and rechecking his weapon while studying a detailed layout of Elvis's usual backstage route, every alarm in Marcus's head began screaming. Unable to ignore his instincts any longer, Marcus made a decision that would change his life forever. Instead of going to the parking garage as ordered, he positioned himself in an alcove near Elvis's dressing room, hidden from view but close enough to intervene if necessary. He had no concrete proof of a threat, no authority to act, and no support from his supervisors. But he had 20 years of experience telling him that something was terribly wrong. At 9:15 p.m., 15 minutes before Elvis was to take the stage, Marcus watched as 3 men in suits approached the dressing room area. They moved with the precision of a well-trained team. But their coordination was not the type used by real security professionals. It was the type used by people planning something they did not want to get caught doing. Marcus's heart raced as he recognized the man from photos. Vincent "Vinny" Torino, a known associate of organized crime families who had been suspected of involvement in several high-profile accidents, involving entertainers who had crossed certain business interests. The pieces fell into place. Someone wanted to send Elvis a message, or worse, they had managed to compromise the hotel's security to do so. When Elvis emerged from his dressing room in his white jumpsuit, joking with his singers, and unaware of the danger, Marcus knew he had seconds to act. The 3 men were moving into position, their hands reaching inside their jackets, when Marcus stepped from the shadows. "Mr. Presley," Marcus called out loudly, his voice echoing in the corridor. "Sir, there has been a change in the security protocol. I need you to return to your dressing room now." Elvis turned, surprised, yet trusting. He had always respected Marcus's professionalism and had no reason to doubt him. But the 3 men immediately realized their plan had failed. Torino's hand was now visible on his weapon, and Marcus found himself in the situation he had feared. Caught between dangerous men and the person he was sworn to protect. "What the hell are you doing, Williams?" Castellano's voice boomed from behind Marcus as the supervisor ran down the corridor, his face red with anger. "I told you to stay in the parking lot. Mr. Presley needs to get back to his room now," Marcus said firmly, never taking his eyes from Torino and his associates. "There is a security situation that needs immediate attention." With the quick intelligence that had helped Elvis navigate the treacherous waters of fame for nearly 2 decades, he immediately understood that something serious was happening. Without argument, he stepped back to his dressing room, trusting Marcus's judgment. Torino realized that the element of surprise was lost, and that continuing with whatever plan he had, would now be impossible with witnesses present. He exchanged a glance with his associates, and made a gesture. The 3 men melted away into the crowd of backstage personnel, but not before Torino fixed Marcus with a stare that promised retribution. "You just made the biggest mistake of your life, Williams," Castellano hissed, his voice shaking with fury. "You deliberately disobeyed orders, caused a scene, and embarrassed important hotel guests. Clear out your locker, you're fired, effective now." Elvis, who had been listening from his dressing room, stepped forward. "Now wait just a minute, Castellano." Marcus was doing his job. "If he felt there was a security concern, Mr. Presley, with all due respect, this is a hotel issue." Castellano interrupted. Something he never would have dared do under normal circumstances. His desperation to control the situation made him reckless. "Mr. Williams violated orders and will face the consequences." Marcus quietly removed his badge and radio, handing them to Castellano without protest. He had known this would be the price for his actions, but he also knew that he had done the right thing. As he walked away, he heard Elvis call after him. But Castellano quickly ushered the performer towards the stage, claiming that the show must go on, and that fans were waiting. The performance that night was flawless, as Elvis's performances always were, but those who knew him could sense tension. Between songs, he kept scanning the security personnel visible from the stage, looking for Marcus and troubled by his absence. After the show, Elvis immediately sought out Castellano for answers, but the security supervisor had prepared a story about Marcus having a family emergency that required his immediate departure. It would be weeks before Elvis learned the truth of what had really happened that night. Meanwhile, Marcus returned home to his modest apartment, where his wife Maria was waiting. When he told her what happened, she wrapped her arms around him without any hesitation. "You did the right thing," she said simply. "We'll figure out the rest," but figuring out the rest proved more challenging than either of them had anticipated. Word of Marcus's firing spread quickly through Las Vegas security circles. The story circulated was that he had been terminated for insubordination and unreliability. Protecting his own interests, Castellano had ensured that Marcus would have difficulty finding another security position in the city. For 6 months, Marcus struggled to find steady work. He took temporary jobs, construction, warehouse work, anything that would help pay the bills, while continuing to search for a security position. Maria picked up extra shifts at the diner where she worked, and their daughter got a part-time job at a local grocery store to help with family expenses. Despite the financial strain, the family never regretted Marcus's decision. They all understood that he had acted according to his principles, and they were proud of him for choosing to do what was right rather than what was safe. The truth about that night began to emerge months later, when Vincent Torino was arrested by federal agents in an unrelated racketeering case. During the investigation, details about his Las Vegas activities came to light, including his plan to intimidate Elvis Presley over the singer's refusal to perform at certain mob-connected venues. FBI agents discovered that Torino had indeed infiltrated the International Hotel's security that night, intending to confront Elvis in a way that would send a clear message to other entertainers about the consequences of not cooperating with organized crime interests. When this information reached Elvis through his own security team's connections with law enforcement, he was furious, not at the threat to himself, but at the realization that Marcus had lost his job protecting him and had been suffering for months, while Elvis remained unaware of the truth. Elvis immediately launched his own investigation into the events of that night, interviewing other hotel staff members who had witnessed the incident. The picture that emerged was clear. Marcus Williams had recognized a legitimate threat, had acted to protect Elvis despite direct orders to the contrary, and had been fired for his loyalty and vigilance. On a sunny Tuesday morning in March 1973, Marcus was working a construction job downtown when a black Cadillac pulled up at the site. Elvis Presley stepped out, wearing casual clothes and dark sunglasses, and asked to speak with Marcus in private. "Marcus," Elvis said, his voice heavy with emotion. "I just learned what really happened that night at the hotel. I know what you sacrificed to protect me, and I know what you've been going through since then." Marcus was speechless. For 6 months, he had wondered if Elvis even knew he was gone, much less understood the circumstances of his departure. "Mr. Presley, I was just doing my job," Marcus finally managed to say. "No," Elvis replied firmly. "You were doing much more than your job. You were willing to sacrifice your livelihood to keep me safe, and I will never forget that. But more importantly, I'm not going to let you continue to pay the price for your loyalty." What Elvis did next became the stuff of Las Vegas legend. First, he ensured that Marcus was immediately hired as the head of his personal security team, with a salary significantly higher than what he had been earning at the hotel. But Elvis didn't stop there. He also used his influence to expose the corruption that had led to the incident, resulting in Tony Castellano's termination and a complete overhaul of the International Hotel's security protocols. More significantly, Elvis established the Marcus Williams Security Training Institute, a program that would train security professionals in recognizing and responding to genuine threats, while maintaining the highest ethical standards. The institute, funded entirely by Elvis, became the premier training ground for entertainment industry security, with Marcus as its director. "You see," Elvis explained to Marcus on the day they announced the institute. "What you did that night wasn't just about protecting me. It was about showing what real integrity looks like. You proved that doing the right thing matters more than following orders, more than keeping a job, more than playing it safe. That's a lesson that needs to be taught." The Marcus Williams Security Training Institute revolutionized security in the entertainment industry. Under Marcus's leadership, it developed new protocols for threat assessment, established ethical guidelines that prevented security personnel from being used for inappropriate purposes, and created a network of trustworthy professionals who prioritized genuine safety over political convenience. The institute's reputation grew rapidly, and soon security teams trained by Marcus were protecting major entertainers, politicians, and business leaders across the country. The Williams Standard became synonymous with excellence, integrity, and unwavering commitment to the safety of those under protection. But perhaps the most important impact of Marcus's story was the message it sent throughout the entertainment industry about the value of ethical behavior. Stories spread about the security guard who had been willing to lose everything to protect Elvis Presley, and about Elvis's response when he learned what had happened. The tale became a powerful reminder that true loyalty and integrity would be ultimately recognized and rewarded. Years later, Sophia Williams graduated with a degree in criminal justice from Stanford University. Her education was funded by the scholarship program Elvis had established in her father's name. She went on to become one of the country's leading experts in entertainment industry security, carrying forward the principles her father demonstrated that night in Las Vegas. Marcus himself became a sought-after consultant and speaker, sharing his story at law enforcement conferences and security training seminars across the country. But he always emphasized the same point. "I didn't do anything heroic that night. I just did what I knew was right." The real hero was Elvis Presley, who showed that integrity and loyalty should always be rewarded, not punished. The relationship between Elvis and Marcus deepened over the years, evolving from professional to genuinely familial. Marcus became one of Elvis's most trusted advisors, and the Presley and Williams families grew close. When Elvis passed away in 1977, Marcus was one of the pallbearers at his funeral, a final act of protection for the man who had recognized and rewarded his sacrifice. The Marcus Williams Security Training Institute continued to operate for decades after Elvis's death, eventually training thousands of security professionals who carried forward the principles of integrity and ethical behavior that had defined that critical night in 1972. The institute's motto, inscribed above the entrance to its Las Vegas headquarters, read, "Integrity above all." A reminder of the security guard who had been willing to lose everything to do what was right. In 2003, 31 years after that fateful night, the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department honored Marcus Williams with its Civilian Service Award, recognizing his contribution to law enforcement and public safety. During the ceremony, the police chief noted that Marcus's actions had not only protected Elvis Presley but had helped expose organized crime infiltration of the entertainment industry, leading to broader investigations and prosecutions. Marcus, now in his 70s but still sharp and dignified, accepted the award with characteristic humility. "I was just a security guard doing his job," he said, "but I learned that sometimes doing your job means standing up for what's right. Even when it costs you everything, I was blessed to work for a man who understood that principle and who made sure that doing the right thing was ultimately rewarded." The story of Marcus Williams and Elvis Presley became a case study in business schools and ethics courses, demonstrating the importance of moral courage in professional settings and the power of leaders to recognize and reward integrity. It showed that true leadership meant standing by those who make sacrifices to uphold important principles, even when those sacrifices go unnoticed for a time. Today, the Marcus Williams Security Training Institute continues to operate as part of the Elvis Presley Charitable Foundation, training a new generation of security professionals who understand that their primary obligation is to the safety and well-being of those they protect, regardless of political pressure or personal cost. The Institute's Hall of Fame includes photographs of Marcus and Elvis from that day in March 1973, when Elvis announced the establishment of the training program. In the photo, both men are smiling, but their expressions convey the seriousness of their shared commitment to integrity and ethical behavior. Visitors to the Institute often remark on the inscription beneath the photograph. In recognition of Marcus Williams, who proved that doing the right thing is always worth the cost, and Elvis Presley, who proved that true leaders reward integrity wherever they find it. The legacy of that night in Las Vegas continues to inspire security professionals, business leaders, and ordinary individuals who face choices between doing what is convenient and doing what is right. Marcus Williams showed that integrity cannot be bought, and Elvis Presley demonstrated that recognizing and rewarding that integrity is the mark of genuine leadership. In the end, what began as a moment of crisis became a transformative event that changed not only the lives of two men but an entire industry's approach to ethics and professional responsibility. It proved that sometimes the most important battles are fought not on grand stages but in hotel corridors where ordinary people make extraordinary choices about who they want to be and what principles they're willing to defend. This incredible story of sacrifice, integrity, and recognition shows us the power of doing what's right, even when it costs us everything. If you were inspired by Marcus and Elvis's story, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a thumbs up. Share this story with someone who needs to hear about the importance of standing up for what's right. What did you think of Marcus's decision and Elvis's response? Let us know in the comments below, and be sure to hit that notification bell so you never miss our inspiring content.